It's basically when you make the patient have a grand mal seizure. What's up, YouTube? It's your girl Sid, and today I am here to talk about my clinical experience in my behavioral health rotation. So, as you guys already know, I am just finishing up my mental and behavioral health course. We're actually about to go into finals next week, and we had our last regular test today. So next week is finals week. I just figured I would go ahead and film this video because I already had all this on. So yeah, I thought I would go ahead and finish. Excuse me, I can't get my words out today. I thought I would go ahead and film this video because I actually had a really great experience in clinical this week. It was our last clinical week. So I thought I would share that with you guys. But before we get into this video, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any more of my videos. And go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up so that I can know what kind of content you all like. Okay, so this clinical was actually really great. My first clinical experience was on a cardiac unit. It was post-op patients, almost like a cardiac med-surg floor, and this was like a polar opposite. We were not allowed to even bring our stethoscopes or any kind of physical assessment and patient care materials with us. So the only thing I brought with me was my little composition book, which you all have seen this, and these goggles here because we have to wear them as part of our like PPE every day, and obviously a mask, but they also provide us with masks at the hospital if we need them. I bring my own because it's more comfortable. So yeah, I was on a pediatric behavioral health unit, and it was very interesting to see these kinds of cases in children. My first patient was diagnosed with unspecified schizophrenia because they didn't meet all of the criteria to fully be diagnosed with schizophrenia yet. So just seeing how that played out, and the fact that they had fetal alcohol syndrome and like how that can affect your cognition later in life, that was pretty interesting. And then I also had a virtual clinical week because they're only allowed to have a handful of people from our group on the floor at a time. So my second week was virtual. Nothing wrong with that. I still learned a lot. We had a movie list to choose from. So I watched Silver Linings Playbook for my virtual week and wrote a whole thing up about that. But when I went back, I had a patient who had disruptive mood regulation disorder, or hold on, what was it? Yeah, disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. So we were, just in her in the room, and this particular patient really liked listening to music to help calm themselves down. So we were in the room, the patient's YouTube playlist was going, music was playing, all of that good stuff, and the Wi-Fi system in the patient's room restarted. So when the Wi-Fi went out, her YouTube cut off because it was like the YouTube connected through internet, not just automatically on the TV. So when that went out, there was a full-blown tantrum, and it was very interesting. It wasn't like shocking to me because I knew why the patient had come in, and it was for something very similar to that happened while they were at home doing school things on Zoom. So I wasn't shocked by it, but it was also like very regressive behavior for someone of that age. So that was interesting to see. And once we did get it fixed, the mood flipped like that. Like, it was also kind of wild how fast the mood went from terrible back to a normal state. And the patient understood like what their problem was, in that it was because of their diagnosis. So they weren't beating themselves up. They were very apologetic for their outburst, and they actually wanted to get help. Like, they acknowledged that this is what's going on with me. They had the insight that they needed to be compliant with the treatment, which was also really great to see, because you don't always expect to see that in adolescents. So that was very interesting. And then my last week of clinical, because we only had 3 in person since I had that 1 virtual, and then we had our simulation week at the very beginning and our orientation. Those were like our very beginning of the course. So my last week of clinical was this week, and I was with a different group because I had to get an adult weekend since my group was assigned to the pediatric floor. So I was at a whole different hospital. It was only behavioral health patients at this hospital, which was very interesting. Just seeing how it functions differently there. I got to sit in on the treatment team, which is basically when the nurses, the doctors, the residents, I think there was a resident in there. I know there was a med student in there, but basically the whole healthcare team, the whole treatment team comes together, whether it's via phone or in person. Everyone's together in this one space, and they go down the list of patients on this particular unit, because the hospital split into multiple units. They go down their list of people, and they discuss like how their diagnosis is improving, if it is, what medications have and have not worked, if the patient is even getting out of bed to do ADOs or anything of that nature, if they have to go to any kind of further treatment outside of that particular hospital, like at a surgical center or something. And they also discussed like discharge planning and all of that good stuff. So it was very interesting to sit in on that and to hear the different diagnoses that these patients had, because with this group I wasn't assigned to a specific patient. We kind of just worked with everyone that was allowed to be out of their rooms and that weren't on like different levels where they needed to be consistently watched every so often or have a sitter with them. So for this particular clinical week, I got to do that, and the instructor that I was with on Tuesday asked me if I wanted to go to the surgical center to watch ECT. And ECT is electroconvulsive therapy. So it's basically when you make the patient have a grand mal seizure, and that's done through stimulating different parts of the brain. So they could have like bifrontal placement, which would be here, bitemporal. They can have like unilateral placement, which would be like one here and one here, or alternating sides. It'll be like one on the top and one on the side of their head. There are a bunch of other placements, I think. I don't remember all of them, but those are the ones that I got to observe, because I did agree to go, and I went in on Wednesday morning. It was really, really exciting. I don't want to say fun but learning is fun for me, so it's exciting to observe. It's not like your average it's not like your average OR. It's kind of a smaller room. The people can come in from home or they can come in from inpatient facilities, and every procedure is less than 10 minutes almost, unless the patient may take a little bit longer time to go to sleep, or if they have more questions, or if something bad happens, which I actually got to see the adverse effects, adverse reactions. So I got there at 9, or a little bit before 9, changed into my surgical scrubs, washed my hands and all of the things that you would do before you go into a surgery, even though it's not like open body, nobody's getting cut or anything. Still follow the same procedures because sanitation is essential, and you don't want to cause the patient to have any kind of negative things with germs. You know what I mean. Yeah, so I got to go in, and when I walked in the room, the anesthesiologist was here, and it was just there was an anesthesiologist and a certified registered nurse anesthetist. There were both of them. The CRNA was the primary person making sure that people would go to sleep and get the meds and everything, and the anesthesiologist would come in and out just to make sure that things ran smoothly. They would go with the patient after we were finished with that particular patient to make sure that they would wake up, because that's an essential part. And there was the MD and the resident, both just only psych related, and there was another nurse who I was there with, who like helped set the patient up for the procedure. So like the anesthesiologist would be getting the anesthesia, the meds together. The nurse would make sure that the machine with the EEG was set up to the proper settings for the placement, and that there was paper in there to record the EEG. What else? They would also make sure that, because they put a cuff on the patient's ankle, so they would make sure that the cuff was on and inflated when it was supposed to be inflated. They would hook up the blood pressure cuff and make sure the heart monitor is connected to the vital screen. There was a lot that happened in such a short period of time. They put the electrodes on the person's head, and while all of these other things are going on, the doctor and the resident are at the computer charting and making sure that they have the right placement for the particular patient. If they're going to change the placement, they'll let the patient know, like, hey, we're going to do this differently because the last time we did this way and you haven't had that much progression, or we've done this many treatments with this placement, all of that good stuff. So they let the patient know that they're going to be making the change, all of that. And while they were figuring out if they were going to change it, they actually have to like look at this whole equation of how they're going to determine how much stimulation the patient needs. And I love math. I've always been really good at it, but that was like calculus and statistics I've never seen before. Like, it was on steroids how they calculate this. And then there was parabola and S curve and all these other curves when she was explaining to the resident, like, for them to fully understand, like, okay, this is why it goes like this. It was really a lot to watch, a lot to take in, but I'm glad I got to see it, because when you when you think about what it is and you hear that they're stimulating someone and making them have a seizure, you automatically get a little with hearing that. So being able to go and see for myself was nice. The only bad things that, well, I don't want to say bad, but the only abnormal things that happened while I was observing was that one patient almost started having like a seizure before they stimulated her. And when we do stimulate the people, it's not like they're having a full-blown foaming at the mouth, like convulsing situation. It's not like that. But this particular patient started having a seizure before they even finished giving her sedative. So because of that, they had to make sure, like, pause everything, make sure she was okay. No, the muscle relaxer hadn't been given yet, so that was nice, because had that happened and she basically would have kind of been paralyzed in her own body but alert of what was happening, that could have been really, really bad. So that was one thing that happened. And they have the monitor on their brain and on their heart, so it wasn't a real seizure that she had, it just looked like it, and I was really nervous watching because I wasn't sure. But I asked all my questions after. The other thing that happened, the patient I was actually focused on and with the most the day before I got to go observe had her procedure before I left, and that particular patient, everything went well. They changed the placement. She was like, okay, cool. Everything went well. Stimulation was done. EEG was going. The little bit of convulsions that she did have stopped in like a regular amount of time, according to the doctor. Everything was fine. Heart rhythm, all of that. And then maybe 30 seconds go by and boom, code blue. So that was kind of shocking, just to witness the code in the middle of a procedure. I've seen codes before. I've been a part of codes at work, but that was very, very different. And the team responded as they should, very fast. The first thing the anesthesiologist did was start compressions, which was great. The CRNA was bagging the patient, and she came back not even like 15 seconds later, I think maybe 30 max. So it was very fast then that they reacted. They got her back, everything was fine. But it was very shocking to witness that in a procedure. But overall, I think that this class was very good. I think that I have a better understanding of the pathophysiologies and the different diagnoses that these people may have, so that it kind of removes that stereotype and the stigma of certain mental health disorders that you see or are portrayed on TV and things of that nature. So it was really nice to have this learning experience. I mean, I have to have it, but I definitely enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Like, I thought that I would probably be coming home like, oh my God, this is so sad. Nah, it is sad that they're locked up in there all day, but most of them are there because they wanted to get the help. So that's nice. But that's really all I have to share. I think that the best part of the whole thing for me was getting to work with children because I love the kids, and ECT because it was just nice to learn more about it and kind of clear up those blurred lines of what it is, because you kind of get your own assumptions when you hear that you're giving a patient a seizure. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I do plan to continue sharing about my clinical experiences going forward, and if you're out there taking your exams right now, good luck. Please be sure to like this video, comment down below, and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any more of my uploads. I'll see you guys in my next video.